What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA
Tuesday, April 6th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made.
Okay guys, we have an 8-game slate tonight, so let's take a look at the point guard position. I'm going to give you a value play here. I like Killian Hayes from the Detroit Pistons playing the Denver Nuggets, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and although they've been pretty good versus opposing point guards, Killian Hayes scored 38 fantasy points last game, playing 25 minutes with a 19% usage rate. He's projected at 23 fantasy points here tonight. That's 6.6 times value. He's $3,500 FanDuel salary, and he's $500 less on DraftKings. Vegas thinks there's going to be 220 points scored in this game, so I like Killian Hayes here versus the Denver Nuggets. Okay, I have another value play, but this is a DK value play only. I like Malachi Flynn from the Toronto Raptors playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing point guards. Malachi Flynn, he scored 47 and 34 fantasy points in the last 2 games, playing 33 and 30 minutes. And he had a 21 and 20% usage rate. He's projected at 24 fantasy points here tonight. Now on FanDuel, that's only 4.7 times value because he's $5,100 FanDuel salary, but he's $1,200 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 215.5 points scored in this game. So I like Malachi Flynn here versus the LA Lakers. Okay, let's take a look at the shooting guard position. I like Zach LaVine from the Chicago Bulls playing the Indiana Pacers, who have the 9th worst defense overall, and they're middle of the pack defending opposing shooting guards. Zach LaVine has averaged 40.5 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 31% usage rate. He scored 34 and 32 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 35 and 31 minutes. He's projected at 38.7 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's $7,200 FanDuel salary and $600 more on DraftKings. Now he scored 41, 21, 37, and 52 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Pacers. So he would have been getting you way over 5 times value 3 out of his last 4 games versus the Pacers. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 224.5 points scored in this game. So I like Zach LaVine here versus the Indiana Pacers.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $100 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won, and then we'll send you $100 PayPal. So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, another value play for you. I like DeAndre Bembry from the Toronto Raptors playing the LA Lakers, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing shooting guards, but DeAndre Bembry has averaged 13.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 18 minutes per game with a 13% usage rate. But take a look at his last 2 games. He scored 37 and 16 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 30 and 20 minutes. So it's really the last game that I'm looking at, playing 30 minutes, scoring 37 fantasy points. I'm hoping he can continue that here tonight. It is a back-to-back, but he's projected at 20 fantasy points here tonight, and that's 5.4 times value. He's 3,700 FanDuel salary and 700 less on DraftKings. So we know Vegas thinks there's going to be 215.5 points scored in this game. So I like DeAndre Bembry here versus the LA Lakers. Okay, who do we have at the small forward position? I'm going to give you a stud play here. Lots of value picks in this video, so plenty of salary to stack some of these studs in your lineup. I like Kawhi Leonard from the LA Clippers playing the Portland Trailblazers, who have the 11th worst defense overall. And although they're pretty good versus opposing small forwards, Kawhi Leonard has averaged 45.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 35 minutes per game with a 29% usage rate. He scored 47, 51, and 42 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 33, 38, and 35 minutes. He's projected at 46.5 fantasy points here tonight. That's 4.9 times value. He's 9,500 FanDuel salary and 300 less on DraftKings. And he scored 54, 34, 52, and 56 fantasy points in his last 4 games versus the Trailblazers. So I like that player versus team history. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 226 points scored in this game. So I like Kawhi Leonard here versus the Portland Trailblazers. Okay, another small forward that I like is Kyle Anderson from the Memphis Grizzlies playing the Miami Heat, who have a good defense overall, and they've been good versus opposing small forwards. But Kyle Anderson has averaged 28.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 27 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. He scored 34, 33, and 40 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 25, 19, and 31 minutes. So he's been on fire, and he's projected at 27.2 fantasy points here tonight. Now on FanDuel, that's only 4.6 times value, although I think he can score you 30 fantasy points or more and get you 5 times value or more, even on FanDuel, where he's 5,900 FanDuel salary, but he's 500 less on DraftKings. So I love that DraftKings price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 217.5 points scored in this game. So I like Kyle Anderson here versus the Miami Heat. Okay, let's take a look at the power forward position. Another value play for you. I like Isaiah Stewart from the Detroit Pistons playing the Denver Nuggets, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. And although they've been pretty good versus opposing power forwards, Isaiah Stewart, he's averaged 18.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 19 minutes per game with a 14% usage rate, but he scored 33, 11, and 19 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 21, 26, and 17 minutes. He's projected at 20.1 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.4 times value. He's 3,700 FanDuel salary and 500 more on DraftKings. So I'm more interested in this play as a FanDuel value play, but I think he could still hit value on DraftKings, just a little more risky over there. But I like Isaiah Stewart here versus the Denver Nuggets. Okay, another stud for you. I like Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks playing the Golden State Warriors, who have the 7th worst defense overall, and they give up the 2nd most fantasy points to opposing power forwards. Giannis Antetokounmpo has averaged 55.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 33% usage rate. He scored 72, and 43 fantasy points in his last 2 games, playing 33 and 35 minutes. He's projected at 55.4 fantasy points here tonight. That's just about 5 times value. He's 11,200 FanDuel salary, and he's 500 less on DraftKings. He scored 35, 52, 56, 51, and 49 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Golden State Warriors. So I like that player versus team history. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 233.5 points scored in this game. So I like Giannis Antetokounmpo here versus the Golden State Warriors.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, moving on to the center position. I like Joel Embiid from the Philadelphia 76ers playing the Boston Celtics, who have a good defense overall, and they're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing centers. Joel Embiid has averaged 52.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 35% usage rate. He scored 42 fantasy points in his last game, playing 28 minutes. He's projected at 49.6 fantasy points here tonight. Now that's only 4.6 times value, but I think he's going to get you over 50 fantasy points and get you 5 times value or more. He's 10,800 FanDuel salary, and he's 600 less on DraftKings. So I like this pick because he scored 54, 65, 30, 53, and 49 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Celtics. So I like that player versus team history. Vegas thinks there's going to be 222.5 points scored in this game. So I like Joel Embiid here versus the Boston Celtics. Okay, another center that I like, especially on DraftKings, is Clint Capella from the Atlanta Hawks playing the New Orleans Pelicans, who have the 8th worst defense overall. And although they've been pretty good versus opposing centers, Clint Capella has averaged 41.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 30 minutes per game with a 20% usage rate. Take a look at his last 3 games. He scored 54, 48, and 63 fantasy points in his last 3 games, playing 32, 28, and 44 minutes. Now, he's only projected at 43.9 fantasy points here tonight. I think he can get you 45 fantasy points or more, but he is 9,900 FanDuel salary, so I'm probably not playing Clint Capella on FanDuel. I think I'd rather just pay up and play Nikola Jokic or Joel Embiid on FanDuel, but on DraftKings, he's 1,300 less. So I love that DraftKings price. And he scored 48 and 45 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Pelicans. So I like Clint Capella on DraftKings here versus the New Orleans Pelicans.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.